So we are about to really change directions here right now. And we are going to be talking about living abroad and embracing a new chapter. So I don't know, how many of you have ever gone to some country, for me it's always been Italy, and said, I love it here. I would love to experience living here for a month, or maybe having a vacation home here, or maybe thinking about moving full time. And I think for a lot of us, we have thought about that, and for actually a lot of people, that is actually starting to become a reality. In fact, there was a really interesting segment on CBS Sunday Morning News about 2 weeks ago, because I thought, whoa, how trendy are we with this panel? And they did a whole thing on people from the States who are retiring in places like Malta, and very reasonable price and good health care, and it was very positive. But I'm sure there's other issues that we're about to hear too right now from our panel, because I don't think it's always that simple and that rosy. So I want to ask them to come up. We have our moderator, Phyllis Haynes. I'm so happy she's here. She came up from Florida just to do this panel with us. Phyllis is author of the new book called How to Dance in the Chaos. She's host of Profunde TV. She's a broadcast veteran who served as host of Straight Talk for WOR TV, and she reported on major issues for ABC Evening News with Peter Jennings and on Good Morning America, and she's received many awards for her original, independent, and documentary work, and she's also a fabulous contributor to the Three Tomatoes. Thank you. Next, we have Laura Begley Bloom. I am so happy to have her here today, and then I actually found her online, and she responded. Laura is an award-winning travel expert, and she's a content strategist who contributes to top media outlets, including Forbes, TripAdvisor, and more. As a recognized travel agent, she appears regularly on TV, from Inside Edition to CNN, and before embarking on her own media empire, she was editor-in-chief of Yahoo Travel, and she was deputy editor of Travel and Leisure. So, welcome, Laura. And then we have an old friend of mine and a very long contributor to the Three Tomatoes, Phyllis Stoller. Phyllis founded the largest and first women's travel club in North America. She lived in London for over a decade. These days, she spends a great deal of time in Mexico traveling for her business. Her company today, the Women's Travel Group, arranges unique small group travel for women, and she's won many prestigious awards from major travel magazines and associates. And as I said, she writes a terrific monthly travel column for the Three Tomatoes. And last but not least is my dear friend, Jim Akers. Jim is a well-known strategic sourcing and operations executive who has worked all over the place for global Fortune 500 companies. He is a true globalist. His first job out of college, I can't even pronounce most of these places, by the way, but his first job out of college took him to Nuremberg, Denmark. He's lived in Kiev. He's lived in Moscow. He's lived in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and the Republic of Georgia. He's lived in Shanghai and Tel Aviv. He has visited over 100 countries, and he has a true passion for people, cultural diversity, and amazing food. You love to go out. If you ever want to go out and have a great dinner, go out. We'll go out with Jim, and you'll have great food and amazing wine. So thank you.
And being part of this exquisite event, our last host made a wonderful reference to seeing the world when she talked about the importance of keeping your aperture open. So this topic is really relevant for me in that we're going to talk about something that opens the human experience, and that is travel. A willingness to open ourselves to the world. This whole earth is our playground, but we often take advantage of only the turf in which we exist in day to day. So I'm going to not take up your time. I want to hear from our guests. They're each going to speak for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll ask questions, okay? So I welcome Ms. Bloom. Please start.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis, and thanks for the nice intro. I'm super excited to be here. I'm a longtime travel journalist. I've been out doing my own thing for 8 years now. I do a column for Forbes called Transformative Travel. And I sort of stumbled into this whole world of the idea of living abroad because my little dirty secret is I've actually never lived abroad. But I've reported on it a lot. I've talked to a lot of people. So at Forbes, my column is called Transformative Travel, and it looks at how people can transform their lives through travel and how travel transforms people's lives. And so I started covering this topic, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And, you know, there's a company called International Travel. Every year they do a report on places that you can retire to. And I started looking at this report. I'm sort of a data geek. I was an economics major. And I looked at the report and I started looking at the numbers and I thought, you know what? Anybody could do this. Like, it was really aimed at retirees and places where you could go and you could live off your, Social Security income, and you could basically live for very cheap. Places like Panama, Vietnam, Colombia, etc. And so I started diving into the numbers and looking at, oh wait, anybody can do this. You don't have to be retired and using your Social Security. You could maybe just quit your job and go and live abroad on $2,000 a month, and maybe you have that in savings, or you could just do a little side hustle, and this went bananas. And so I kept doing these stories, and as I said, I really just kind of stumbled upon this and started finding all of these companies. And of course now, in the world that we're in, people, as you were saying, are really thinking about living abroad. There's been Henley and Hart is a company that helps people move abroad. After the election, they saw something like a 504% increase in people interested in moving abroad. Ex Patsy is another company I'm dying to tell you about. They said they did a report saying that 1 in 4 Americans are thinking about moving abroad, and something like 10% or 5% are actively doing it right now. And there people are, I have lawyers, I have relocation experts, and they are just saying that Americans in droves are coming out of the woodwork, and these companies are launching. Ex Patsy is one that I'm excited about. They have a test that you can do where you can go on and answer all these questions, and they'll tell you the best country for you to move. And they have topics. And so you check. Are you interested in a place that's LGBTQ friendly, that's diverse, that is liberal, like any of these different things, and they'll tell you where to go. My place was Spain. Ex Patsy, like expat. Yeah. Expatsy. I also just recently did a story on a company, which I honestly did the story partly just because I loved the name of it. It's called GTFO Tours, which stands for Get the Out Tours. And these 2 women had moved independently of each other, but they met there. They moved to the Netherlands. And the Netherlands has this really cool visa called the DAFT visa. And I've got it written down what it stands for, but it basically helps you move there and set up a business, and then you can get this visa to be able to live in the Netherlands, great quality of life, et cetera, et cetera. And so now they're helping other Americans do this, not only to move to the Netherlands, but to move abroad. And so I have so much to say on the topic, but I don't want to take up all the air up here. So
I'm just going to ask you to say those titles again, slowly, so that people can write them down.
Ex Patsy is the company, EXPATSI, like expat, SI. And they're the ones that have this test that you can go on and do. And actually, they did a recent study based on people that were taking the test and looking at the best places to move. And the top place was Portugal for people to move, followed by France, Spain, Greece, and Switzerland. They had 116,000 people who took the test, and that was interesting to look at. And Portugal often ranks high. In fact, Portugal's been a little controversial because they had this whole golden visa program so that people could, buy into Portugal, and so many Americans were moving there that they said, no more. We're just getting overrun with Americans.
So that last company was She Hit Refresh.
Yes.
Okay, and now we're going to go to Phyllis Stoller.
Well, thank you for having me, and I did FO for 10 years. I am going to be the devil's advocate. I'm going to say that you're not going to be drinking a glass of red wine on your terrace in Florence. It is difficult to move overseas. Visas. How are you going to pay for things? Who's going to rent to you? Where do you get health care? How do you make friends? Can you even get a Europe? I'm talking mainly about Europe. I could speak about Mexico separately. How can you get a European credit card? The answer is you can't. It's complicated when you move overseas. Starting with just arriving. Most countries allow you in for 3 months. It's stamped in your passport. Or if you're going to Britain, it's no longer stamped, by the way. You walk through an electronic gate. How do you pay for anything? You can't open a UK bank account, nor can you get a Barclay card, which is the card de rigueur in Great Britain. You can use Apple Pay. You can use a little bit of PayPal now. But a simple thing like paying your rent is difficult. Health care. No, it is not free. Whatever you read about, it is not free in the Netherlands. It is not free in Spain, France, or the UK, or most of Western Europe. If you're hit by a car and it's an emergency, they will take you to the hospital for free. If you have to stay overnight, the meter starts running. It is much cheaper than it is in the United States. My husband broke his leg in Paris. It cost $19,000. In this country, it would be a lot more. What happens with the $19,000 if you don't pay it? The next time you enter one of these countries, they will arrest you. Some other things to think about, besides health care. How do you get the medicine you currently take? We've heard a lot today about medicine. A lot of that is not available in Europe. We have an FDA, well, we used to have an FDA. Regulations are very different in European countries. What's kind of interesting is holistic medicine is much more available and acceptable in Western Europe. A friend of mine was just in an accident. Her doctor gave her arnica tablets and arnica cream. No doctor in this country prescribes something like that for bruising. Lodging is difficult. It's very expensive in good neighborhoods in European cities. In Lisbon also. We talked about the money, the bank. Food is very expensive. One reason it's expensive is the shelf life is usually 2 or 3 days. In this country, you buy something, it's good for 3 months. Shelf life in European supermarkets, it's fresh. The food is fresh. It has very few additives in it. We are now going to be exporting American beef to Europe. I'm wondering who's going to buy it. They do not eat food with additives. It's expensive. There are very few big box stores, so you're not going to find a Costco or Sam's Club anywhere near you. Clothing sizes are very small, by the way. Amen. Very small. If you wear let's say a 12 in this country, you're wearing a 16 in Europe. People are smaller. Colors are different. If you are African American here, you might have trouble buying makeup in London. So colors are different, shoelaces are different. How people dress generally is different from how Americans dress. So if you think you're going to be working overseas, which you probably aren't unless you're doing it on the sneak, you're going to dress differently from how we dress. You're going to present yourself differently. You're going to negotiate differently. So it's a completely different lifestyle. I will finish with just telling you a funny little thing. We moved to this country. My children were born in Great Britain. Therefore, they are dual nationals. No longer. If you're born in Great Britain now, you do not get a British citizenship automatically. But they had it. We moved to Miami, and the first night we had a babysitter. He was a 15-year-old boy, and my son said to him, "Are you a nanny or are you a daddy?" Because my children were British. So everything's different. I think that's my pitch. I haven't written a book, but I've lived the book. I haven't talked about Mexico at all. Very different situation. You can move to Mexico skills are needed. So I'll leave it at that and ask me questions at any time. I'm on the internet under the Women's Travel Group, my company. You can find me there if you have questions. Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know me, no is not an answer. It's the beginning of the negotiation. It's the beginning of the research. I will definitely go back with Phyllis and write down all of the things that she just referenced so that I can provide my own answers to how I overcame some of those things, both in my professional life as well as personally. She's absolutely right. It can be a total pain in the ass, right? Totally. Just have to be ready for it. Just a quick background. So I grew up in the South. I was born in Virginia, born in Lynchburg, Virginia, raised in Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. Hi, y'all. I used to have an accent like this, right? And you know, Southern accents, you just stupid as hell, right? And that's what a professor thought my freshman year and told me that with that Southern accent and that blonde spiky hair, it was blonde at that time, I couldn't possibly know the answer to a macro econ question. I was on full academic scholarship as a Russian language major, right? So anyway, he apologized after I got the question right, and the faculty senate told him he had to apologize. The reason I'm giving you that context, I was the only person out of 492 graduates in 1986 from high school who left the state and stayed gone. Okay, so 75 went to UVA, 75 went to James Madison, 75 went to Virginia Tech. These people who had been in kindergarten together had already self-selected that they had a roommate from kindergarten. And so there was never, to your point, there was never a big push by the majority of the people I was around, my family or my friends, to explore. Senior year, spring break, I went to Moscow and St. Petersburg, parenthetically with my church choir group, and we'll just leave it at that, right? I'm not a singer, but I experienced, it was 1985, right? 1986, and the rhetoric at that time was communists are bad, communists are evil, communists are not like us. And I went there with the belief, the mindset that they are people just like we are, right? They have families, they have challenges, all the rest of that. And I do believe that that set me on this path, if you will, where I'm insatiably curious about other people, I usually learn a language through food. Cheryl referenced, my affliction or addiction to food, good food, and trying new stuff. It was life-changing for me. Right, so we were, of course, shepherded around by the communists and told not to leave the group. And so, of course, tell me not to do something. And that's a pure invite for me to do it. So I went home with a Russian family from the park for dinner. Definitely got in trouble for that. I came home with one pair of sweats, one t-shirt, a baggy coat, and a pair of Vans, no socks. I traded absolutely every bit of clothing back then to get a flag, a hat, etc. And that cultural exchange for me was just amazing. So, a couple of quick things. So at the end, I'm going to come back there to the point around the resources, right? And I think Cheryl and Ann, maybe we put together some of that resource information and write it up, and we can include it in Three Tomatoes. Yeah. But here are the insatiable curiosity that's been my theme throughout my life. If you expect to be overseas and have everything just as it is right now, then you're going for the wrong reason, right? Absolutely going for the wrong reason. Part of the joy to the earlier conversation around health and mental health, et cetera, is you're experiencing something new, right? I have tremendous wanderlust. I individually have tremendous wanderlust. During COVID, we have a place in Brooklyn. We had a place in Asbury Park. I decamped to Miami Beach. I also rented a place on Fire Island. So four houses in 12 months, right? My partner of 32 years, not surprisingly, was quite irritated by this. And once we sold the second home, he said, we'll never own another home besides the one in Brooklyn again. And he came up with something that's kind of a unique approach. So two plans for retirement. So one is that I get to spin the globe, pick a place, and we go for 6 to 9 months. Right? Say again? 6 to 9 months. Now, he came up with this idea, which I thought was ingenious, because then that way, hey, it's his idea, so I can do it, and that's okay. The other option that we've been discussing is, first of all, wherever you have friends that have a place, don't buy there, right? Work it out with these really good 4 to 5 friends, couples, what have you, that we have a place in Brooklyn, you don't need to own a place in the US, come anytime you want, right? If you've got 4 or 5 couples or friends, what have you, that you can live with for periods of time, a month, 2 months, even better, right? If we were going to buy a place overseas, we would buy a place where nobody else has a place, right? So those are the two options that we're looking at for retirement.
Whole movement towards house sitting internationally. What is that experience like, and how good is that experience for someone who hasn't traveled a lot?
I have no experience in this. I can say something about staying in a country for more than 3 months. You really have to be careful. You don't want to be on the overseas version.
Use your mic.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
You don't want to be on the overseas version of what we are doing to people in this country. If you stay more than 3 months in any country and you are found to do so, which you will when you leave, you will be flagged and you probably have difficulty going back. So if you're going to house sit, you want to house sit for less than 3 months, leave for a decent amount of time, and then come back. They will question you. There's certain things you should have in your hand at the time, like your return ticket, your business card showing that you have a business in this country, some odds and ends like that to prove to a customs person that you're not working there.
A British woman who was traveling around and house sitting, and Canada said, oh, wait, that's considered a job. Even though you're not, she said, well, I'm not getting any money, I'm just going and house sitting. They said, no, it's a job, you're getting something in return. You're getting a place to live. So therefore, it's a job, and she got thrown in jail. Canada rejected her. She got thrown back into the United States. Our lovely country said, you're going to jail. And she was in jail for, I think, 6 weeks because they considered it to be working illegally. So absolutely, it's risky.
Well, I don't have any house sitting experience, at least not in my adulthood. Sounds like this is not the best idea. House swapping, right, for that sort of thing. Again, we don't have any experience with that, but
I have experience.
Yeah, I was going to say. So can we just toss that in? Yeah.
So my parents did this. My parents have a place in Cape Cod, and they used a site called homeexchange.com. And we went to killer places around the globe, and they would swap their place. There's a movie with Cameron Diaz called The Holiday, and
right.
It was just like that. And so we went to Brittany, the Italian Riviera, the Cotswolds, Copenhagen, all over the place, Morocco, and they swapped their places. And in fact, at one point, I don't know how many people live here in New York City, I put my apartment in New York City into homeexchange.com, and I was getting, for my teeny little 2-bedroom apartment in Chelsea, I was getting offers of like grand villas in the Loire Valley, and I was getting so overwhelmed with people wanting to swap that I had to take it off. But it's a really cool thing, and there are other companies that do it too. There's another company called Friends Like Us, which is or People Like Us, something like that. Terrible name. Another company called Third Home, where you can put it in, but you have to pay Third Home if you use them. It's a little dodgy, I think, but it's an interesting way to live abroad or to spend time abroad.
I do have property abroad, and I do have experience renting it. I will say again, for major European cities, quality residential in a building will not allow you to do part-time rentals. Quality, the same in New York. I did rent my apartment for a year, And during that year, I got a call from the man on my phone, on my landline. All my clothes are caught in your washer, and I don't know how to get them out. So be aware if you do any house swapping that there are details to deal with.
Also, just bear in mind that not every bathroom in Europe has shower and toilet, right? So I was helping my partner plan a trip with his bestie from med school, and I knew that they each needed their own separate space. It was a nightmare. It was in Paris. Trying to find an Airbnb in Paris with 2 separate rooms with a toilet and a sink.
Something that's very different in overseas real estate. Appliances are very small. The washer that I have, which is in a very good flat, holds about 10 pounds of laundry. It heats its own water, so it takes an hour and a half to wash. There is no dryer. The oven is convection. That was invented in Great Britain. I don't know if you know that. The heat goes on and off on a clock. There is no air conditioning. I purchased an air conditioner. It cost 850 pounds about 10 years ago. It's this big. It rolls around on rollers, and it has a big tube that goes out the window. And that's air conditioning in most European countries. So it does work.
I want to just get back to the joyful part of it. I have lived overseas. I have lived and worked in Maastricht in the Netherlands, and one of the exquisite joys, besides the gorgeous men, I'm not kidding. I got a lot of good treatment there. I had big blonde weave, and I really got a lot of attention. But in any event, I just want to get a focus on, and this is one more thing, this movie that ends with Marigold Hotel. I don't remember the title.
That's
But
it.
it was so inspiring that this world is out there ready to care for us.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about the people and the joy of being overseas?
Yeah,
I want to just
You
hear.
start here. Yeah. I was going to throw out a few things. You can get a degree overseas. It's very inexpensive. I got an MBA. It cost 120 pounds at the London School of the South Bank. You can take all kinds of educational courses. Adult ed, you will meet fascinating people in them. You can do some freelance work quietly. I did some for one of the number of guidebooks. So there are all kinds of ways to meet people, and you will make lifelong friends. It takes work, but you will make lifelong friends.
Well, I honestly believe that if people traveled more, the world would be a better place. Because you see, just people are wonderful everywhere, and they're just, and I'm personally biased. I'm one of the people that dreams of living abroad, and I look at all these places, and as I said, I report on them. I interview people about the amazing experiences that they have living abroad, and I know that things can be challenging, but then there are a lot of perks as well. In Panama, for instance, it's often rated as one of the top countries to live abroad. They have a program called the Pensionado program, where you can become a legal resident if you have Social Security or pension of $1,000 a month. And of course, this is just an average, but an average cost for living in Panama City, according to this International Living, which is a great source for inspiration for living abroad, they claim that a couple can get a place in Panama City live with all of their expenses included for $1,753 a month. Colombia, also, that was ranked this year as the top place to live abroad. 2 people living $1,500 a month. A 2-bedroom apartment in Medellin for $800 a month. Going out for a fancy dinner, $20 a month. You could live in Vietnam, $1,200 for a couple a month. With a 1-bedroom apartment in Hanoi's Old Quarter for $275 a month. Of course, there are going to be challenges, but I think there's a way to live. I think there are a lot of places around this world that are much more affordable than this country, and your dollar stretches farther. There is controversy around that too. This whole idea of gentrification. There's people that aren't loving all Americans coming and living in their country and taking away their resources and maybe jobs or, living off the fat of the land. But I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
So a couple of quick things. When I arrived 5 hours after leaving Copenhagen in the late evening, I had asked to live with a family so that I could really experience the culture and learn the language. I learned Danish in about 6 months, so that's pretty okay. I woke up in the morning and all I could smell was cow manure. And I thought, what in the hell have I done? All right, what have I done? And literally I look out the window of my bedroom and there's cows, right? So the positive part of that is those cows were on the property of the manufacturing site. It was so green as an environmentally sound manufacturing that the cows could live there. And I got fresh cheese every morning on the way to work, right? In Shanghai, right? So I lived in the British concession on the west side, sort of Puxi versus Pudong. Pudong is all the modern stuff. And I had a clear line of sight to the Pearl Tower and to the building of the Shanghai World Financial Center. The Shanghai World Financial Center was almost fully completed in the 18 months I lived there. And I so wish that I had time-lapse photography of that building going up. So it's a part of history, right? And I will say, as long as I make an effort in any country I go to, right? Even if it's even if it's one word of that language. I mean, I've learned how to say, I'd like 2 beers, please, in about 20 languages. It's usually an icebreaker, no pun intended. And as long as I try, and by the way, they will always respond to me back in English. They will not respond to me in the language. Then that respect, it's a show of respect, and then they really are open, more open.
So that brings me to our closing question that I'd like you each to take. What is it like in this current environment, from your knowledge, to be an American? My daughter's was just hired by Les Arts Florissant, and she's going to be living in Europe, and I'm afraid to say that she's an American. I'm telling her to maybe answer that she's Canadian. I'm embarrassed to say that. But truthfully, what is it like?
Well, I mean, I just was in Italy a few weeks ago, and I had a great reception. I was in Rome, Amalfi, Pompeii, Naples, and Florence, and everybody was lovely. I did have people say, "Ooh, poor you. It's tough over there right now, isn't it?" But I was concerned. I was bracing myself for maybe some negativity. I didn't see it. That's anecdotal, of course, but it was.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I've just come back from Great Britain. I go back and forth all the time. And I go back and forth to Mexico. Quick anecdote, Tate Modern, I took a tour. The docent commented twice about Trump during the tour. I'm a progressive Democrat, but I'm a proud American. I stopped her, I corrected her information, and I suggested strongly that she learn about our history before she make public comments. I was just in Mexico. Interesting comments. One, which might surprise you, is it's about time Claudia Sheinbaum, who's the president, went after the cartels more aggressively. Trump pushed her to do that. I was very surprised by that. No anger at America. I know I work with a lot of Mexicans. It was very much, thank you for doing this. Of course, the tariffs have not come into effect yet. And when you go buy food tomorrow, everything fresh comes from Mexico. But I was surprised at the pleasantry and the negativity in London. And it happened more than once, but we don't have time for more of that.
Yeah, I think overall, the friends that I have in the various countries, they all reached out on November 7th, I think it was, whatever election day was. And they're like, what in the hell have you all done again? How would this have happened, right? Now, I was in Denmark during the impeachment of Clinton. And they had the same conversation with me, like, seriously? And I'm not making a judgment one way or the other, but they think we're kind of idiots sometimes and quite funny, but also like a sadly funny, right? But I don't think it's a problem. I mean, look, I would prefer not to have a blue passport when I travel at the moment, a blue American passport, U.S. passport. But that's not the case, right? At least not at the moment.
I think we have time for one or two questions. Are there any questions at all? Yes.
I lived abroad once in college for 2 months, but I've moved multiple times and lived all across the United States. Could you all comment on the emotional level of, moving away from your friends, your family, what you know, all of that sort of thing?
Mine was a thank God. I mean, in all seriousness, mine was a thank God. I mean, I love them because they're my blood relatives, but I was having my wings clipped, so I needed a
I'm
refresh.
going to actually go to another question.
Okay.
Because is there another question? Yes. I can't hear you. You'll have.
As a teacher, I have summers off, and so part of getting to see the rest of the world is using that time. But I'm thinking more not like necessarily living, but rentals for a month, Canada or something. Is that doable and not raising a red flag?
Very doable in Europe.
Anywhere around the world. I think it's totally doable and you can do it affordably and yeah.
Phyllis, you did not promote your business at all.
Nope.
Can you say what you do for women?
When we came back from Europe, I noticed American women didn't travel that much, and my European friends did. My company is called the Women's Travel Group. It's my second business. I sold the first in 2007 and converted it into a condo in Cape Cod, so I want to know where your family lives. This is my second, the Women's Travel Group. This week we have a group leaving for Paris, and it's a tour company for women. I will say we cater to women who want the reading list, who want to go to a museum, who want to learn. And it's on the net as the Women's Travel Group. And thank you for reminding me.
You've lived all over the world. Do you have a favorite place?
So when I arrived in Denmark, it felt like home. So theoretically, my family background, ethnic background, is Irish and English. But I felt very at home in Denmark. Then I went to Norway, and my last name, Akers, A-K-E-R-S, but with the little circle over the A, Akers, is everywhere. It's in every city and all the rest of it. Now, it means acre of land or mud patty, so I'm not really sure what that says, but I felt very at home in Scandinavia, right?
And I know you haven't lived overseas, but do you have a favorite place?
I always like to say that my favorite place is the last place that I've been. Because I can find things to love anywhere. But I will tell you, I am particularly in love with India. I took my mother there for her 80th birthday. We went and, we went to a wellness retreat and then went to the Taj Mahal, and it was life-changing. I'm trying to convince her to go to Antarctica with me, because then we will have gone to 7 continents together. She's not up for that, but I do love India.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I went to Cuba with the Women's Travel Group last March. Wonderful.
What's your name?
Carol.
Oh, Carol. Hi, nice to meet you. I don't meet our clients because it's online. Thank you.
There was only 6 people. We had a wonderful guide. We saw everything. It was inspirational. It was fun. It was fabulous.
Thank you very much.
How are we on time, Cheryl?
We're good. You could probably take a couple more questions.
Okay. Yes.
I'm just curious, are there any statistics on people who have actually made the move and then found it wasn't what they thought it would be and moved back because of either language considerations or moving away from their social circle, hard to make new friends?
I can give you anecdotally. Basically, most of the Americans overseas are there for corporate reason. Most of them come home for career advancement, money, family.
I think it depends since COVID, right? So with the advent of all of this remote work, and a lot of these countries have a digital nomad visa of some sort, where as long as you are, you're able to support yourself, and then you're able to live there for 90 days and another extension for 90, I think was Spain or Portugal, right? So I think there's a piece of this. I have a friend who literally just picked up sticks and moved to someplace north of Porto. And this guy, at least on everything I can see online, he's never been happier, right? So the answer to your question is, I don't know about any statistics, right? If people get over there and it's not what they wanted or not what they expected, the question I would ask is, what did you expect, right? Back to the comment I made earlier. If you're expecting it to be, you're going to go to the Wegmans and you're going to pick up your pre-made, meals, that's not going to happen, right? And to the whole point you were making around the supermarkets, the market, there's a whole culture in Europe in particular, if not all around the world, except the United States, where you go to the market every day, or you go to the market every other day. You go get fresh vegetable, you go get fresh fish. That's why the refrigerator doesn't have to be a 48-inch double-wide Sub-Zero, right? I mean, not the fact that would be your entire kitchen.
And I really want to thank you because you have opened the aperture for us.
Well, I'm just going to mention two things. Dual citizenship, that it is possible for a lot of Americans to have dual citizenship, and you should look into your ancestry.
Yep.
If you are from, Irish heritage, Polish, Hungarian,
Italian.
For my husband, he's got German heritage. We're looking into getting second passports for there. And then also there are a lot of places around the world, for better or for worse, that are paying people to move there. Little towns in Italy, maybe the most boring places on the planet, but they are basically giving people these grants, and I'm sure you've heard about the €1 homes that are being sold.
But then you're 2 hours from everything. 2 hours from New York, no offense to anybody from Pittsburgh, but you're in Pittsburgh. 2 hours from Podunk, south of Rome, you're in Paris, you're in London.
But still kind of a fascinating
Yeah,
thing. And I've read
exactly.
stories about some that have been miserable and some that have had an amazing time.
So I'll kick in with something different. I lived abroad consistently for 10 years. It's a little different from visiting. It will change how you think, what you read, how you eat, how you speak, what newspapers you read, what questions you ask of your government. It will change you inside in a way that is very difficult to convey in a panel like this. But it's a change for the good. And you become, I call myself this transatlantic person. When I'm in England, I feel very European. When I'm in New York, I feel like I am a New Yorker. But it will change you permanently, not temporarily.
So just on that point, find one opportunity and go do it, right? Because you'll get that experience that Phyllis is talking about, and it will change you, and you'll want to do it over and over again. You may want to go back to the same place over and over again. Nothing wrong with that. You may also want to just go from place to place to place. Quick resources, right? So 2 days ago in Veranda magazine, I'm not sure why exactly I'm reading that one, 20 best countries for American expats to consider in 2025. International Living, which you mentioned is an organization, they also have a Hidden Places initiative. So I'm looking into that. Live and invest overseas. Ironically, the Social Security Administration, presuming we still have one, explains how to live overseas. AARP, again, State Department. There's a ton of resources out there. So my plea is, don't take no for an answer. No is never the answer. It's the beginning of the conversation. It's the beginning of the negotiation. It's the beginning of figuring it out. And if you're in a relationship where the other person isn't good at planning, hypothetically, then it's okay. You take care of it and do it. Just get out and do it.
Thank you very much.